Welcome to the Be Human Medicine podcast. I'm your host, Oliveyah Fisch. This is a space to practice. It's a space to return to your truth, deepen your self-trust, and remember who you're here to become. Together, we practice being human medicine for ourselves first, and then for the world. Let's begin. Hello, everyone. My name is Oliveyah Fisch, and I am your host of the Be Human Medicine podcast. Before we jump into today's episode, I want to share with you that I am a big fan of the Hoffman Institute. It has been one of the most impactful experiences of my life and has really shaped the way I coach, the way I love, the way I live, and the way I return back to myself again and again. So today's conversation is really a treat for me. I got to sit down with Drew Horning, who has been a Hoffman coach for over 12 years, been a therapist for about 25 years, and is the co-host of the Hoffman podcast. What I love about his perspective is that he not only witnesses transformation up close, he also gets to track what happens after, in real life, in relationships, in the moments where growth meets humanity. So in this episode, we talk about what really changes people, how to meet your triggers without shame, and why vulnerability is not a weakness, but a form of strength. We talk about how to use your relationships as a powerful growth container, and you get to see Drew coach me in real time, which is amazing. And there's a special treat at the end. Drew guides us through a beautiful Hoffman practice called a quad check, a simple grounding way to connect back to your body, your intellect, your emotional self, and your spirit. It's one of my favorite practices that I do daily, and I can't wait for you to experience it. If you've been feeling stretched, reactive, or tender, or feel like you're trying to do the work perfectly, then this episode is for you. Enjoy. Hi, Drew. How are
Hi,
you?
Liv. I'm good. Good to see you.
Good to see you. I'm so happy to have you on the podcast today. I met you because Ian Salvage, my brother, also,
Shout out to Ian.
I know we got to always do a shout out to Ian. He's so lovable.
Yes,
You two are Hoffman coaches together.
we are.
And you've been a Hoffman coach for how long now?
About 12 years.
Yeah,
Yeah.
amazing. And how long have you been doing this work as a therapist in general?
Yeah, I started in about 2000, so about 25 years.
Wow,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. It's been great work to be connected to people in some of their hardest, most vulnerable, raw moments as they try and piece things back together. Like, wow, that's a front row seat to lots of good stuff.
I bet. And then you also are the co-host of the Hoffman podcast. So after people
Yeah.
graduate, you're co-hosting that, and then you're talking to people about their transformative experience. So you've definitely had this really wonderful front row seat to not only their transformation, but then what happens after. So I would love to just start there. What do you know to be true about what actually
Yeah.
changes people and what kind of takes them through the arc and what happens after?
Oh my gosh. Well, the first thought that comes to my mind is that we care about the continuity, the progression of people post process. And so that's why we track what people do, how they're doing it. We do it informally, but we like to stay in touch with our grads. And we have grad groups all throughout the US where people who have graduated from the process come back, they connect. And the podcast is one way to dive deeper into people's experience, people's lived experience, the stories they're telling about their lives post-process. Of the many threads we could pull today, one of those is how do we have a lightness of being, some ability to laugh at ourselves, some humility, some ability to be humble in the face of all of this, to enjoy a good laugh at our own expense is an important thing in navigating this life's journey.
Yeah, I agree. I often say to my clients there's no difference between me and you. The only difference is that I'm okay that I have problems and you're upset about them.
That's good, Liv. I
And
like that.
I'm saying it so genuine. I'm like, they're saying something I'm going through even currently, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I know about that. I get that." And I'm just like, "Yeah, this happens, and how I'm viewing it really matters." So, I wonder how you teach that in your own practice of that lightness of being, just embracing our humanity. I know
Yeah.
you wrote a book called Grapple, turning that grapple into grace. How
Yeah.
do you teach that arc and framework so that it's helpful for people?
Yeah. I mean, it's a good question. It's an important question. There's no black and white way of doing it. I think one of the probably easiest concepts to initially get, but the hardest concepts to practice and understand in all its nuance and complexity is self-compassion, self-love. You choose your synonym, the ability to love ourselves, the ability to be kind to ourselves. It's not rocket science. It's like, oh yeah, we all get it. And in fact, maybe the fact that it's so part of our culture that we know we should be kind to ourselves creates more of the problem because doing it, practicing it, embodying it is hard. So there's a disconnect between the ease of the idea and the difficulty of the practice, but it's a daily, ongoing commitment to be tender with ourselves. It's a belief, it's a decision, both a belief and a decision that despite the mistakes I've made, despite the havoc that I have caused, despite the fact that I want to take responsibility, I will take accountability for what happened. I will offer myself grace, kindness, tenderness, warmth. I will not deprive myself of the uh, kindness and compassion of what it means to be human.
Mhm.
And it's a
So
critical, ongoing thing
yeah,
every
so when
day.
you're in the midst of that, when you're in the midst of that struggle, when you're really feeling whatever that emotion is, we can call it down, depressed, you're grappling with something. I feel like that's a lighter version of maybe what I'm even thinking of. Maybe there's grief, maybe there's a sense of a wobble in your marriage, in your circumstances. You thought something was going to happen, what you expected you did not receive, that kind of grief. I know you've shared some experiences of why you even went to Hoffman in the first place. You were struggling with marriage issues. In that moment, what do you do with that first step? Or that first or second,
Yeah,
third step when you're really not doing
yeah,
well and you want to be able to get out. It's time, but it feels like fake or forced. It
yeah,
feels
yeah,
like, "Okay, I'm gonna pretend, and then I know it will be okay, or maybe I'll move my
yeah,
body," and you're really wanting things to shift and change. Even in your work now and in where your life is now, what is that first that tool that you bring in for your own self to navigate?
yeah. I think it's super small, but it's wildly important. And it is the ability to say, this sucks. I'm hurting. I'm not feeling so good. Ooh, I'm triggered. Again, choose your phrase, choose your moment to moment acknowledgement. But on some level, we've got to have the ability to be like, okay, yeah, not doing so good. Yeah, hurting, triggered. The ability to just, it's like a slight pause that says, shit, wow. Not so good here. That hurt. Something to to you know take this moment and separate it from every other moment. And if you can do that, then you're on the right track. And it doesn't have to be right away. There are times where I'm fine, and then a minute later or a day later, it's like, wait a minute, some doesn't feel right. and I can do it after the fact. It's better if I do it closer to the moment. But that skill, and it's a muscle, at being able to acknowledge to oneself, to yourself, that, boy, this is a moment of struggle. Kristen Neff talks about it as mindful awareness.
Hmm. Yeah, that naming, that ability to call out and name the thing, I think is often very challenging. I think it's actually more frightening for men, if I can say that, you know? And so when you're working with men on that space of naming the thing without
Yeah,
shaming, I think that when I see a fear of naming because then it's just gonna go right to shame and all the terrible places that goes.
that's a
So
great point. That's a great point. You're like, yeah, great to name it, but be aware of all the repercussions, the tentacles that show up as a result of naming it. You know, this is slightly random, but lately in my work with couples, I've been thinking, because you drew the masculine, feminine, the male, female. I think to be called weak for a man is just about the worst thing that we could be labeled. And I think the equivalent for a woman, I'm not exactly sure because I live in a male body, but I work with lots of uh, women and men together, is to be called crazy. Like somehow they're crazy. And that's just as undermining as being called weak to a man. So you're right. We have to view for men the naming of our struggle as a true act of strength. And I really stress that. That's why I called the book Grappling. It's why I do the work with Hoffman. It's why I did the work in this office as a therapist. And that is that there's a piece of this that is like, I'm hurting. I'm going to own this. I am not doing well. And to feel the courage, super important word around, we associate courage with so many physical acts. But if men can get that this is a true act of courage, stepping into it to own vulnerability as a strength, we're so much better off.
what do you think is the barrier to doing that? Why is that such a challenge for so many of us?
Well, we don't, especially for men, we don't do it a lot. And so it's wildly uncomfortable and a little confusing, and we don't know what to do next. And does that mean I'm abdicating responsibility? Does that mean I'm giving up? Does that mean I'm not wanting to take action? And we have to get that, no, this is a step towards all of those things. It just might be slightly more circuitous than pushing through, gritting it out, moving straight ahead, blindly into struggle without acknowledging what's happening in our body.
Yeah, I think that's so true. I'm wondering in your couples work, when I'm working with couples, I often will say, and I'm actually interested in your opinion about this. This is my theory, okay? We
I like
decide
it.
we decide to be in these relationships. We say yes to this partner in our life. And marriage is something where we're going to say, "Okay, I decide to let you trigger me the most out of all the people on the planet. And we're going to trigger each other the most and hurt each other probably the most. But with that, I say yes because that will bring growth because I will see my patterns. I will see my growth edges. I will have a mirror about how I am being constantly because I'm deciding to walk this life with you. So I
Mm,
say yes to that. And I'm going to say yes to that every
mm.
day because it allows for my growth, your growth, and the growth of our family. And maybe that sounds cynical. I'm not sure. I'm curious about your opinion on that. And then also to say, if that is somewhat true, if we want to buy into that framework or philosophy around marriage, not that it's not other things, it's just like that's going to be there. I think that there's an opportunity as well to say, bring it, like when there's a trigger and you're like, oh yeah, I'm kind of acting like an asshole today, sorry about that. And then I can name that thing. There's freedom there, right? Which is what we're talking about, just naming that I'm not doing well. something's going on with my health, I'm trying to figure it out, or I'm not doing well, something, you're just saying the thing. And I think that people have this idea that their partner is meant to like be this perfect compatible match that is completely messing with people's minds about what it actually is. So I would love to get your and you can totally say, Liv, I have a completely different view about marriage, and that's also okay.
No, I actually agree wholeheartedly with everything you said. And I'm thinking about part of what's in my heart right now is some sadness around people who have confused what it means to be married and see their triggers in their partnership as the fault of their partner. You triggered me, some version of that, and therefore you're responsible for not triggering me, and just the pain that that causes, the lifetime, the stress, the hurt, the chaos, the dysfunction, that interpreting a healthy, loving partnership through that lens, that it should be the absence of triggers, is tragic. The cost is tragic for our world, our society, our marriages, our intimate partnerships. So, so starting there, and then I guess I just go to the question is, what would it be like if we all stepped into the partnerships that we're in and held that like yes and the possibility that comes with and the freedom, great word you use, that comes with being excited about being triggered. Whoa, I am triggered. Woo! What? Holy shit. I'm triggered. Watch out. Golly. What happened? My God, what? Like, and to be so curious about our triggers, um, and know, and that's just the beginning and the whole doorway of rooms that opens into our psyche, into our view of the world, into intimacy and connection, and ultimately into love. Because I think when we're battling and bickering on this side of that, that we're like thinking this is all there is, like put up your dukes and going at it, and in this kind of protracted, contracted perspectives with our partners, we're missing what's on the other side. I love the Rumi quote where he says, out beyond right doing and wrongdoing, there is a field. I'll meet you there. Out beyond right doing and wrongdoing, there is a field, and I'll meet you there. So we say yes to triggers because we know that ultimately on the other side of all of that is this capacity to give and receive love in ways that many of us have never experienced in our life, have no idea of what it feels like cellularly to give and receive love. We're missing all of the goodness of why we engage in some of the challenging stuff in the first place. So I'm with you. You know, one of the things I share with my people is this: intimate partnership will hurt you. You will be hurt in your intimate partnership. You cannot avoid it. And as you said, you will in fact be more hurt in this relationship than quite possibly in any other relationship. And that's a hard thing for people to get, that is normal. Even in the healthiest of relationships, there will be deep hurt. What's different is that this vehicle that has caused you such hurt and pain and difficulty and struggle at times can also be a vehicle for healing, for loving, for reconciling, for repairing, for attachment in healthy ways that can really set you on the course for a richer, happier, healthier life.
Beautifully said. Thank you for that. So good. The relationships that we have are the most important thing, I think, in our lives. And so it's really a challenge when those things are wobbly for most of us. I have my
Good word.
hand up too, I'm just like, "That sucks,"
Yeah.
Be nice if that was solid all the time, every single moment of the day when everything else is in chaos, especially with the world we're living in now. And I think that this idea of being able to grow from these spaces of conflict and recognize that there's so much there can be so much love on the other end, when we're able to step into those vulnerable places with our person and say, yeah, this is my side of the street, and just keep that spotlight of attention on our side of the street and what our patterns are and what's going on for us, instead of into that blame space that we tend to go, and holding that with compassion so we don't go into that spiral of shame, right? Such an
Yeah.
interesting space to navigate. I
Well,
have a
you
Mhm.
mentioned two, just quickly, two
Yeah.
important things, and that is shame is the opposite side of blame, and blame is the opposite side of shame. And so sometimes we blame because we want to avoid the feeling of shame. And so this is the gritty work of being a human, is that we have to go towards our mistakes, our struggles, our patterns, our challenges without allowing shame to consume us, because it's right there lurking, ready to be like, yeah, and it's not only your fault, it's always been your fault. So one of the ways we do that, unfortunately, is by keeping the pressure on our partner and pressing the lever that focuses on them. And then they go into that, and now we're in this pattern ping pong, which goes nowhere.
It's so true. It's so true. It's so much easier to say, I would be doing better if you were just better, instead of, I'm just going to take care of what I need to take care of, even though
Yeah.
it's really hard, and hold it with a lot of compassion and grace so that I don't say I'm all bad, right? Like, such a, it takes a lot of time. I actually have a personal question for you. This is kind of
Yeah.
a selfish question. The more I've been in this work, I remember leaving Hoffman. This was 2010, 11. That was the first time I went to the Hoffman process. I felt like, oh, cool, my right road. It's so wide and beautiful. And it's just like, here we go, let's go play. And the more I've been in this work and understanding who I am and what all this is about here, I feel like my road is actually quite narrow. My right road, my alignment, my right path. And I've been calling myself lately a tightrope girl. And I'm just like devotion, discipline, love. Like, this is how it goes: discipline, love, discipline, love. Like, I am a disciple covered in a bubble of devotion here. This is how it goes.
Mm.
And when I don't do right action, when I'm out of integrity, even just a little, I feel it a lot. And it feels like, boom, you fell down. Like, you just, ooh, that's so painful. And I'm wondering your thoughts on this. Have you heard about this before? Is this common? Um, this idea of there's a this alignment actually now feels tighter than it did before. There's less room for sloppiness.
Mm.
And I'm wondering what you make of that. Is this temporary? Is this how it is? How do you
Ah,
experience this?
I love your metaphor of the narrowing of the road, which, if you think about it, anything that has energy moving through it, if it's super, super wide, it might go slower. But when you narrow it, it can increase speed, because now you're bringing more pressure and you can really go places. And so I imagine this narrowing has created more efficiency and effectiveness of getting what you want in your life. Is that true?
Yeah, I would say so. I would say I am pretty effective, in my day to day,
Great.
Um,
Great.
I would say yes.
Yeah, so that's a good thing. Like, I think, I have another thought as well, but I think on some level, the more clarity and kind of concise, focused energy we can bring to who we are and what we want, we just get after it. It nets the results we want. Um, and there's some problematic nature to a tightrope where it's
Exactly.
like, oh shit, oh
Thank
shit.
you.
And you've used wonky or wobbly a couple times earlier in the conversation. I love the metaphor of that. And I think um, so. Here's for maybe we could put a in the show notes, put a link to Hoffman or a link to the right road, left road map so that people can orient. And for those listening who haven't done the process, or if you have done, on some level, we create two roads for life. One is the authentic, where you're connected to who you are, your goals are clear, and you're on your path as you go. The other is when you're in this patterned, reactive place where you're kind of habituated in how you're approaching life. There's a lot of movement, but you're not going anywhere. You're kind of anywhere, kind of looping back on yourself. And then there's a choice point in the middle. And at every moment, we have choice to step onto the right road of authenticity or to go into our patterned roles that we learned from childhood that we've not really adjusted over time. Whereas the right road is new and exciting and different because we're coming at it from a integrated place. So that's the general orientation of the map. And here's what I would say. And I'm wondering, Liv, if this resonates with you. So let me know that that even though we bifurcate those two, some people orient that there are no patterns on the right road because our initial introduction into the metaphor, into this symbol that people use is that this is the authentic road of spirit, of connection, and this is the patterned road, the left road. But in reality, the more you do this work, the more you can begin to hold patterns from a right road perspective. Because it's so much of what it means to be human, because we will all invariably go into pattern and struggle at times, there's a difference between how we meet those patterns. And the left road is to judge ourselves, to feel like we've fallen way off, to maybe make some sort of assessment and meaning, which creates a lack of resiliency. We can't bounce back as much because we're like, oh, I was doing so well. I was on it, man. And I cannot believe I did that. And then we're in this kind of rumination, self-sabotage. Whereas what would it be like, Liv, if the next time when you're out there crushing it, you're feeling that alignment, it feels great, and then something happens. You make a mistake, you do or say something, you get out of alignment, as you talked about so beautifully, and you met that dissonance that was inevitable when you weren't in your aligned self. Meet that with love, with kindness, with like, oh, wow. Woo-hoo. That was rough. Oh my gosh. What do I need? Because it wouldn't have just happened randomly or for no reason. You're like, huh, how did I get there? Let me close my eyes, put my hand on my heart, slow down a little, pump the brakes, and give yourself the space to sort of to be in care. And then the net result of that is a kind of shock absorber, bouncing back, resiliency. And now, before you know it, you're back on your right road in that narrow, beautiful path towards your goals.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I love it. I love it. Even before you said bounce back, I was like, maybe there's a trampoline below. Or like a really
I think
fun thing
so.
to play on, so it can feel more light down there as I'm jumping back. And the view of tightrope to me is kind of fun. It's like a game. I like walking tightrope. So it's like, oh, I'm just being so present. Like I can do that. That sounds cool. But it's so interesting that it feels so narrow now. And I'm trying to play with that feeling, and I use analogy in my own practice to kind of make sense of those moments. But if I can add a fun trampoline down below, then it's
Yeah.
like a bouncy house.
That's right. Liv, the thing about it is that's a lot of pressure. It's a
Yeah,
lot of pressure to always be like, okay, okay. And another way in which you might hold it is that the tightrope is just on a floor so that you're walking the tightrope. And if you step off, well, it's not very far. It's just a couple inches down and you step back on.
yeah. I like that. I like the floor. That's even better.
'Cause
That
then you're not falling
then I
very
don't gotta
far,
fall
Liv.
anywhere. Yeah.
That's
Then it's just
right.
like, "Oh, it's just over here," and then it's a quick step back.
I
That's
really think
beautiful.
that's an important thing is how
Mhm.
do we meet our humanity? How do we meet it? Are we kind and loving, or are we judgmental, admonishing? Do we retreat from ourselves? Do we deny that that's who we are? Like, I think in those moments, when you step off of that tightrope, that's when you bring lots of loving energy.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you for that. It's super, super
Mm,
helpful because I do sense that there's a shift happening in my own whatever space that just happened very recently, maybe a year and a half ago. And it's been interesting. It's been a new fun thing for me to play with and recognize how much grace, using your word, um how much softness can I bring to that where I'm used to thinking, okay, game on. Let's
yeah,
go, like that
yeah,
mentality doesn't work anymore. It's
yeah,
more like, "Oh, how much care can I give to myself? And what do I actually need? What does my body need? What does my emotions need? What is this message from my spiritual self? How am I fueling my intellect?" Really being able to use the Hoffman principles of the quad check and other things that I've learned along the way to have it where it is met with so much love. And I have an 8-year-old daughter, as I think you know, so
oh,
it's easier now to do it to myself because 'cause I'm like, "Well, what would I say to Abby?" I'm like, "I would never use that tone with her," you know? So I think that's making it a lot easier in these last few years to meet myself with more of that gentleness that I would meet with her, and that feels good. I just never thought alignment would be alignment in this way. I'm
yeah,
surprised by the amount of of
yeah,
alignment, and I think that's where this tightrope analogy came in. I'm like, "Oh, like, always be nice to yourself," you know?
yeah.
Like, wait,
You know,
always be kind.
yeah. One of the things I've done over the years is coach high school basketball. So I was working with adolescent boys in this kind of very competitive, tough environment. And one of the things as coaches we always used to say was go slow to go fast. And so there were times where we had to break things down in practice and really slow way down. Your foot goes here, then you swing your elbow and you come up. We would literally break it down, move very slowly. And in doing that, we then come game time, we'd eventually slowly speed it up. All of that slow energy that we developed to bring to the breaking down of it actually allowed us to play very, very quickly, fast, and show up in games at game speed. And I think that teaching point there when it comes to teaching and coaching applies to being human too. There are times where we really have to pump the brakes and slow down and kind of bring care, kindness, tenderness, warmth, loving, nurturance, grace, whatever word people resonate with. Those moments call for it. Slow the hell down for the sake of. It's not just like, okay, I guess I got to go slow. No, it's like you were doing great. We want to get back there. But if you want to return to that beautiful lightning speed of progress you were making, we got to use at times, slow it way down so we can understand ourselves and these moments better.
Beautiful. Yeah, thank you for that.
Mm.
Sometimes I use the analogy like I I dislocated my knee about 10 years ago and I had to move really slow, like to get out of the car and do whatever. And it was such a blessing because I'd never moved slow in my life. I'm a hummingbird by nature, so I'm just zipping around all over the place. But on those tender moments when I do feel that wobble, it's so helpful to even just physically move slow and speak slower and be like that gentleness of like, oh, is my knee okay? And thinking of it like an actual injury of like, ooh, I'm hurt. Let me go slower is actually
Yeah.
very helpful to do. So thank you for that.
Yeah, Liv, I mean, I just, this, I know people know you who are listening to this podcast, so they're fans, but I'm noticing two things. Can I just share? One is, or just in general, and you do it with two different ways. You utilize people and metaphor and experiences as a kind of vehicle to help you get someplace. You did it with how you talk to yourself around your daughter. You're like, I imagine my daughter as my internal tenderness, my internal emotions. And I think, wait a minute, I would never talk to my daughter that way. I'm not going to talk to myself that way. And you used your knee as an example of what you need and how you would care for it. And those are just very strategic, important ways of utilizing things in your life as a way of getting what you want. What would you call that, Liv? Because it's super cool. I'm really inspired by it.
Oh, thank you. I think very differently, I think, than most people. People call me a kinesthetic learner, or I have to actually understand something by embodying it. Otherwise, the intellect doesn't make sense to me, you know? And I think that I never viewed myself as very smart in traditional, ways. And so I've never been able to really rely on my intellect. Like it just is like I have nothing to say if unless I can feel it, or I have nothing to even think about unless I can feel it. And so I think I think or move differently. So I have to use those things. I don't have a choice. I'm not going to be in here talking from this level for very long before I'm done talking.
Yeah,
I think that that's why I use a lot of metaphor and real life things to bring
yeah,
out, and that's how I coach as well, which I think helps people get out of their head because most of my clients do have they're super brilliant people, and they're mostly up here, and so it's a breath of fresh air. I'm like, "Let's just put that aside, you're doing that great, good job." Like, let's thank that intellect,
yeah.
and let's see if we can do something a little different. But yeah, thank you for that reflection. It does help me. It helps me tremendously. I'm wondering what are your things that you pull when you feel like, "Oh, wait, hold on. There's something here for me. Here's a little trigger. Here's my right road. I've slipped a little. I've stepped off the line. I like this line with instead of tightrope. I'll use that analogy going forward." And
Yeah,
what's
you know,
that space for you?
I think partly based on what you just said and partly based on the work of the Hoffman Institute in the process, and then partly based on the affliction that we all have around staying in our head. It's like we can't solve a problem at the level of the problem, and our intellects, God knows they've tried. God knows we've thought about it, read about it, talked about it, ruminated about it. And I just think progress is so minimal when we only use the overused intellect. It's had its say in that department. I imagine anything people are struggling with, the intellect has spoken. So can we at some point say, hello, intellect, yeah, I got you. Thank you. I'm grateful for you. And then turn towards these other aspects of what it means to be human and connect with our bodies, because that's where some of the struggles live. That's where some of the contracted patterns live, the historical wounds live. And that's where some of the answers live, the wisdom lives, the intuitive, embodied, authentic part of ourself lives. So I use my body. I get outside. I take deep breaths. I feel the sun and wind on my face, even if it's for a few seconds. I hike as much as I can, or walk, or go for a run, or lift weights. I mean, I just try and ask my body what it needs, what it wants to be a part of the solution to help me. Because at the process, it is deeply somatic. It is uh, profoundly connected to what is happening in our body, whether it's, Peter Levine's work related to trauma and the body. There are so many ways in which we can turn inward to the cellular wisdom that is available to us and be surprised. You used the word surprised earlier. I think it's an important piece in this because sometimes we loop into what we know, and the idea that we're stepping into the unknown, into surprises, is super uncomfortable for people. But we do have to have a sense of surprise as we navigate change, because after all, it is change, and we're doing something different to get something different. So let's embrace the surprise, the unknown behind every corner.
Yeah. You have a really wonderful way of making the work sound really fun, like as well. I'm like, if we're not having fun, like you're not going to keep doing this, it's going to be a lifelong, there's not like an all done, you know, yeah, you're done with like growth. You're done with having a pattern. You're done with reactivity. And I think that that's such a beautiful trait that you embody when you're talking about these concepts of, how can we make it even more enjoyable, even though it's hard, and not even be
Yeah.
surprised so much that it is hard, while you're embracing that humanity
Yeah.
that
You know, I
comes
think
along with it.
I think one of the things that I notice my trigger, I get tweaked, and I should explore it further because I'm like, why am I getting tweaked? But one of the things that I know I always have a reaction to is when people say, "Oh, I got to go back and do the work. I've stopped doing the work. I got to do the work. I need to go back into therapy. Oh, do I need Hoffman again? And I always notice, like, in that kind of duality, we're either living life or doing the work. And I think even if we're going through a day, we're living and then doing the work. And I just think, what would it be like if we did both at the same time? What would it be like to live a life where doing the work is a natural part of living life, that the two aren't separate, that the life I live as I go through my day is fundamentally intertwined with doing the work?
Well, there's a concept. That's beautiful. Why can't that be so simple for us to embrace, That seems actually quite radical. It
Yeah,
does.
it is a little radical, but what would you and I could explore, like, what would that look like? It'd be like, oh, I would practice micro moments of checking in throughout the day. I would practice deep listening and seeing people's humanity. I would live a meaningful, courageous, loving, heart-centered partnership, marriage. I would take time for myself occasionally. I would close my eyes so that I could go inward. I don't know. I would have courageous conversations with friends.
It seems so doable if we can view it from that lens, right? And then we have lots of these ideas, from that lens of it's not separate. It's actually
Yeah.
the same thing and they get to overlap. And how does that overlap for you in your own life? I think is I think the radical responsibility that is necessary for the collective right now. I think that's beautiful. The My book that's coming out is called Spiritual Heartbeat, and the first session or chapter session is around radical living. And part of that is that, I think. You're saying it so beautifully. I wish I said it like that in my book. But it's essentially that of how can you just accept the reality and work with it, just like we work with gravity. We work with gravity. Nobody's complaining that they can't fly unless you're maybe a child, like, why can't I fly? It's like we've all accepted lots of things the way things are, but we don't with our own humanity in the same way, where there's pain or unknown or constant work that just needs to get done. Even if you've made all the money in the world, there's no all done to this life. And I think that that's challenging for people to accept, to have that radical acceptance there with their
Yeah.
relationships, with how the world just is, and how the universal laws that we have we're governed by. And I'm wondering, where do you think we are collectively in our relationship, even with in our relationship to our own humanity? And what do you think is missing from how we teach people how to heal? Is this it? Is this like it's this or this? Is there more that you think we are needing as a collective?
Well, first I have to say I love the title of the book, Spiritual Heartbeat. Damn good.
Thank you.
Nice. Um, and I love the metaphor of gravity. And I was thinking about as you were asking that question, like, what the hell happened? And I I I think there is some desire to escape um feeling bad, and labeling it as bad and good contributes to the desire to escape it, because we all want to feel good, we all want to be happy, we all want to be in that zone. And so how do we treat when we're not in that place? But one of the things I think is that on some level we've been lied to. We've been sold something that isn't actually true, that you can, through your own work and personal growth, um, transcend struggle, transcend challenges, and you can live the Instagram life of only positivity. And I think there are people out there who do who, on some level, support that narrative. And one is the people who are bypassers, whether it's emotional bypassing, spiritual bypassing, the people who like just want to go into the light. And there's lots of people who prescribe to that notion and teach that notion. And I think that does a disservice to our humanity. But the other people that contribute to that is those who are stuck in struggle because they're like, I can't get out of this. I'm not doing well. There's no way, if only. And so that kind of Debbie Downer, the sky is falling, people who are really stuck in depression, sometimes it's not their fault, but that cluster of people can also contribute to it by feeling like there's no way out. And so we're like, I don't want to be that. So I have to be that. And that's the escape route, because that's the stuck route. And I think there's a middle way where we bring those struggles and bring that light and chart a path that is, to your metaphor, a wider path that gives us a little more space to step off of the tightrope of authenticity and to be a little more fluid in how we navigate the ups and downs, the joys, the sorrows, the incredible gift that is humanity, and the fact that at times it's a shit show.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so true. I think that I should have quoted you for that first chapter of the book right there. Like, that was it. Like, how do you just, like, embrace all of this? And what it was coming to me just, visually, that I think you just shared with me a few minutes ago, but I really got while you were just saying that, is actually there's only one road. That's what's happening, in my space right now. It's just one road, and it's all, like, weaving together, and it's really actually gets to be really fun now. That is what I can cry a little bit. Like, I know you didn't say any of that, but how you were talking about that, it literally those roads, and I remember that picture at Hoffman that was drawn on that whiteboard, it just went, "Phew." It's all just one road, and I
Yeah,
can just play with the patterns and play with the things and
yeah.
just play with it all, and just be like, wow, this is all just life. And I think that that is a form of radical living that I haven't pieced together until right now. So, thank you.
Liv, you've used the word play and have fun with it so many times throughout this conversation, and you embody that. And I love that about you. No wonder people respect you and read the book and buy the book and do coaching with you, because to bring that kind of approach to being human, to living this life, creates so much resiliency. Who
Yeah.
wouldn't want that?
Oh, so sweet. Thank you so much. So I know we only have a few more minutes, but I would love for us to practice together. Would you mind leading us through an exercise that feels
Sure.
meaningful to our audience today?
Sure. Yeah, what a great way to finish up. So this is a quadrinity check-in, and quadrinity is a Hoffman word. If you type it into any system, any platform, any Word document, it'll highlight it as misspelled. So it's not really a word, but it reflects the four aspects of self that we call at the Hoffman Institute: the intellect, the emotional self, the body, and the spirit, which is our authentic self without patterns. So we start with just checking in. People can close their eyes, take a big deep breath in through the nose, and exhale through the mouth. Just beginning to follow your breath, beginning to come back into the body. Part of that is noticing sensations. What are you sensing in your body? And as you do that, you can ask your body what it needs from you. Body, what do you need from me today? Just listen as if your body is responding. And then you can bring gratitude as a way of closing this connection with our bodies. We bring gratitude. Thank you, body. Let your body feel your gratitude. And then checking in with your intellect. And if sensations are the language of the body, thoughts are the language of the intellect. What's happening in your intellect not right now? What are you thinking? And then you can ask your intellect what it needs from you today. Intellect, what do you need from me today? And as you breathe that in, you can bring gratitude to your intellect. Thank you, intellect. Really let your intellect feel your gratitude. And then take a breath, and now checking in with the third aspect, the emotional self. What are you feeling in this moment? Giving yourself permission to notice feelings, welcoming all the feelings. And then now checking in and actually bringing some sense of curiosity. What does your emotional self need from you today? Emotional self, what do you need from me today? And just listen. And then bring in gratitude. Thank you, emotional self. Thank you. Really let it feel your gratitude. And then finally, checking in now with your spiritual self. This is you, wise, authentic, whole, grounded, and embodied. See if you can just breathe into the presence of your spirit. Part of you has no patterns, innately good. And as we finish up, just receive a message from your spiritual self, positive message from your spirit. And then take a breath, wiggle your toes, come back, slowly open your eyes. And you just completed a quadrinity check-in, or for short, a quad check.
It's the best practice I know, really. Thank you, Drew. It's so
You're
good.
welcome.
I really appreciate that in real time. Felt that. Do you practice your quad checks?
Yeah, I do. I do them randomly and quickly. So I'll do multiple ones during the course of a day,
Yeah.
and it's really helpful.
Yeah, I feel like I've made up my own version of them. So this is fun to kind of get the Hoffman version again. So I appreciate that. Yeah, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for this
Oh,
time together. I appreciate you so much, and I look forward to our next conversation. Thank you.
so good. Thanks for your curiosity and your aliveness, your vitality. I just feel it emanating from the screen. Great to share space with you.
Yeah, you too. Take good care. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye, Liv.
Bye. Thank you for being here. If this episode resonated, subscribe and share it with someone who would love it too. And if you're ready to go deeper, start your 14-day free trial of the Be Human Medicine app. The link is in the show notes. Until next time, stay open and keep becoming.